Hi folks, welcome to yet another drawing class. This time I'm going to use the sunflower that I did yesterday, and obviously we're going to use a pencil. We got to sharpen it once in a while, so we'll give it a little run around the carousel, making a mess. And we use this little duster brush. These are available at any art supply place. Clean that off a little bit. And I have this eraser, which this is the best eraser you can use for pencil drawing. Most people who have taken my classes with me before remember that I usually profess that you should never use an eraser. And I guess by saying the word never, what I mean is hardly ever. You should not rely on it to correct your mistakes as you go along. Learn from your mistakes, let them live, and just keep on moving. So we'll put that aside, all right? So let's see, we're gonna, I don't know, turn this into a little bit of a landscape. And I talked to you in a previous episode, which I encourage you to review if you have not, about randomness. You see how I drew a little squiggly line to represent the horizon rather than, a sharp, hard line. And just a reminder that most landscapes are best not divided in half like that. You would not want your horizon line right in the middle, because what happens is your brain does not know whether to concentrate on the sky or the ground or what they're even looking at. There are instances where this works. Normally, in my experience, the horizon is very low. So I'm just going to go and then maybe I'll create the concept of a background of trees off in the distance. You see I've done that in a couple of lines, again going very lightly. Perhaps next thing to do is I'm going to develop another sunflower head, and I'm not going to give this one as much attention as the first one, because you want your primary interest to be where the focus is. You want to direct people's attention to what you want them to look at. And you do that by putting all your details into that particular item or area, and then suppressing the idea of adding so many details. And I'm doing the same spirally thing that I did before, although more loosely, more quickly, and wandering around. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you obviously need to see my first sunflower video drawing a sunflower, and that's available by just wandering around the website. All right, so we round this off. This is that big sort of flat donut, and instead of a hole in the middle, it has a concave shape. So we develop that more and more, and then we, again, gonna wander around with these petals, remembering to allow some of them to point to the ground and be affected by gravity, rather than just being erect all the way around. All right, so again, referring to my first video about doing sunflowers, we're going to layer multiple petals, etc. Multiple layers, and round and round, and filling in between, and so forth. The pleats. Maybe I'll darken this whole seed head up just a tad. The dark little triangles in between the petals where they create that nice dark shadow. And then round and round and round, and then perhaps a stem here. And then the stem that goes to the leaf. Capillaries, and I'm going to do this somewhat rough. You can once again refer to that first video for what I'm doing, but I just want to quickly show you how to turn a simple drawing like like this sunflower into a more complicated landscape. All right, shadow, a little bit of definition. Perhaps we'll put one back here. And, you know, here's a continuous line drawing that, once again, is referring to yet another video called Continuous Line Drawings. And once again, I'm gonna show that. Let's see, I'll show that over here again. Another seed head. The spirals. Spirals in opposite directions. And then here we go, continuous line drawing for the petals. You see how this gives life to it. You can kind of give it more character this way. See, that's one line, all those petals. Then I'm going to go in, back in, fill in a little bit. And once again with a stalk, couple of leaves. And look at, I'm going to tuck this leaf behind that one, starting to create a little bit of depth, maybe a little shadow on that. Again, this leaf, and maybe even another one. Let's see, we'll go another one here, which also goes behind that one. You see how you build up your layers? One more time. That one almost disappears entirely. And then perhaps, once again, over here, with another seed head, a bunch more of these spiral lines. And again, take your time doing this. I'm just kind of burning through so that the video is not so long. Again, here we go, continuous line drawing. And try not to make them too similar as you go around. See that? Here we go with that droop. There we go. And then fill in. Fill in. We'll do a stalk behind it. We'll do a leaf, a stem, and a leaf. And once again, we'll go behind this one. So once again, that makes this stalk show up better. You know, it's darker, it's closer, and so forth. So we've got our few sunflowers. Let's do a little bit of a cloud, just a representation of a cloud. Here we go with that billowing shape and that little bit of line across the bottom for some shadow. Perhaps a couple of smaller ones. Something behind the sunflower again, creating depth. Perhaps one over here, and instead of just putting them in here like little parts, I want to have one go off screen, so to speak. Just so that we don't have little polka dot of clouds wandering around. We're going to have, and this one I think will go up behind that cloud, another little small one over here. All right, so there you have it. And then if, let's say we have a little surprise visit from the Colored Pencil Club here. Normally, if I'm going to do a colored pencil drawing, I do not draw with graphite, because what happens is that one's not a colored pencil. What happens is the graphite tends to smear around with the colors. But in this case, just, you know, for the thrill of it, we're gonna do a little color, a little blue. These are actually called Color Core, I think they're called, made by Kohinoor, and I think they're available at Michael's. They're very inexpensive. And the only problem with these, I really love using these, but I only use these for sketching because I'm a little concerned about their color fastness. And what that means is if drawings done with these are exposed to a lot of sunlight, they will fade. So use a better colored pencil if you're doing more serious work. And I'll address that once I get into a series of colored pencils. But just for fun, I'm going to just use these and see how loosely I'm going to hold this pencil. Just to get a little sky color in here, just to give our drawing some life. And a drawing like this is something that you might do in preparation for doing a more serious painting. I know, and just my own self, when I started painting and drawing, I did some things from my imagination, but eventually started to fall back on using photography resource material, and I do a great deal of outdoor painting. Probably more than half of the work I do is actually on site outdoors. But I encourage you to learn to work from your imagination and not rely so much on photography. It's good to have source material. Even I teach a lot of seniors, and they like to just kind of copy calendar pages, from nice photographic calendars. And I always encourage them to take one element from one calendar page and take another element from yet another calendar page, and blend those together and make it your own. All right, so there we have a little bit of a sky, and perhaps off in the distance, we're going to do we'll do a little medium green, and I'm not going to draw any specific trees. I'm just going to kind of wander around, do a little fill in here. Just to create this. I mean, these sunflowers look like they're kind of in a field. And we need a little background off in the distance to represent the field. And yes, I just colored one of my yellow petals green, but hey, that's part of life. Don't reach for the eraser. You can't erase this stuff. Colored pencils are not easily erased, especially the better ones, because they have a little bit of wax in them. It's pigment and wax, and who knows what else is in some of these things. Different manufacturers use different formulas. All right, so we kind of peek between, try to figure out where the tree might be peeking out behind things. And with that, something like a green like that, it's often too sharp. I use a little brown or orange, or even a little very light amount of red in when I'm painting, to kind of cut that acidic nature of the green. Gives it a little life. All right, so that's our background. We might go, let's say, a little lighter green, and again, we're just doing a real simple scribbly fill in, because this is not our finished piece. This is a study for a potential serious painting. And the one reason to do this is, in preparation for more serious work, is the more you do this, the more you get familiar, and by the time you get to the painting, it's almost like you're filling in like a coloring book. You're already so familiar with what you want to do that you just are able to easily fall into just doing the work without a great deal of excessive hesitation or a lot of thought into it. All right, so we make it a little darker on the bottom. What this does is it pushes the foreground up closer to you. A little light off in the distance. I might even take a little yellow back there and just kind of scribble in a little bit of highlight. All right. And then I recognize that one of the sunflower heads is floating in outer space. I don't know what's holding it up, so I'm going to tuck a little stem in there, maybe a little leaf or two. And, it happens. I sometimes come back and look at a drawing and I go, well, wait a minute, what's that doing there? It's on a stem. All right, so a little bit of, let's say, we'll work on these stems a little bit. These stalks. Darken up our stalks. I'll even take a little blue for a little shadow up underneath. See how that works? Tucks that stalk, makes that stalk go right up behind that seed head. Okay, so let's start with, I think I'll do the leaves in yellow at first. This is like a layering of colors. And what will happen is, you see I go somewhat directional sometimes. I try to do it all the time, but I don't always remember. So what this is I'm going to put the yellow down first. And then when I put a stronger bit of green and even some dark green over top of that, the yellow will peek through here and there and give it a little bit of life. All right, so let's say a little bit of green. My pencils are rolling around. That's another funny thing about these round pencils is they roll all over the place. All right, so we're giving our leaf a little bit of green. And let's just say our light source is, as I often say, is up in the upper left-hand corner. These leaves are somewhat folded like this, so my left hand being this side of the leaf and my right being the right side of the leaf, you can see that the left side is darker. The right side picks up a little bit of the sunlight. So in that case, you're going to see this side is a little darker. This side is lighter. This one might just be all dark because it's looking the other way. This one, again, a little darker on this side. Lighter here. Oops, let's go in the direction. See, that's important to try to remember that. All right, so once again, a little bit of green here and there. Same thing. If they look like they're facing the sunlight, then a little darker on that side. Lighter over here. And if you want to push these ones back a little bit, put a little blue on them. You know, even a little purple. I haven't have any purple out, but yeah, here we go. All right, so a little blue here, a little bit here and there, and even purple. Purple is a really good shadow color. Used sparingly. I might use that to bring out these capillaries a little bit in the stems. Again, little shadow here and there. All right, so let's see, a little bit of burnt sienna, or this rust color for the seed heads. I might go somewhat rounded. I'm going to also use that to enhance not only this edge here, but the concave indentation in the seed head. So in this case, since this one is more important, this is more prominent, I'm going to take the time to apply the color in the direction of that Fibonacci spiral that the seed heads create as they mature. So once again, all the way around a couple of times, and then all the way around a couple of times in the opposite spiraling. You're following these little arches that I've got all the way around. And then use that to enhance that shadow. Use it to enhance that shadow here. All right, and then just move around to each those pencils are rolling again. That's a good use for the eraser. It keeps the pencils from rolling. There we go. So we'll use it like that. Okay. And once again, I'm preaching against the reliance on an eraser. I see so many beginning artists, they start with a pencil, they make a line, and they reach for the eraser, and they make another line, and they reach for the eraser. Just don't do that. There's a well-known Leonardo da Vinci drawing of where he's drawing some lady's hand in preparation for a painting, and I think she has 7 fingers or something like that. And what's happening is he's testing the different positions of the fingers on the hand, and it, you know, we see it today, and when we see what he's thinking, and I think it's important to not just rely on that eraser and make those changes. I mean, that's the best example I can possibly think of. All right, so there's our seed heads. We're actually also probably gonna go back and do some enhancements with a darker brown and bring out these spirals a little bit. Pop up these shadow parts. Now this one you see I didn't do as dark because again it's in the distance. Okay, looks like we need a little tape because our drawing's banging around here. We don't need that. So secure drawing. Moving on. Yellow petals, and this is something once again. You can see I use this color a lot, don't I? Once again, we're gonna work on the petals, try to apply the color in the direction of the petals. Sort of lose the idea of where the petals are and where the sky is and where the clouds are. Doesn't really matter, you know. The viewer's brain kind of blends all of these together and sees whatever it wants to see. You don't need to define every little bit. All right, so I'm using a bit of pressure to get some nice color, some strong color down. Trying to make sure I hit all the, not only the major petals, but you know, the smaller bits that peek through. To change position of how you hold it sometimes, because as you work your way around, if you are trying to continue to apply your lines or your color in a directional mode, you need to reposition your hand, reposition how you hold the pencil. I'm gonna run out of this color one of these days soon. Back to the store, and I do buy from Michael's when it's convenient, but most of my supplies come from a website called dickblick.com. Okay, Dick, you can send me a check for that little plug. You know who I am. So it's nice to just go through the online catalog and they'll send you, if you're a regular buyer, they'll send you a nice catalog, a big catalog. All right, so there we go. Moving on. And once again, it's sort of like the concept with that eraser. I don't agonize over keeping all the lines perfect. I mean, you know, we're all taught as children to color inside the lines, and the best thing you can possibly do with this is, again, in the spirit of randomness. Don't forget to go look at my randomness video. In the spirit of randomness, you know, you kind of color roughly inside the lines, but sometimes a little outside. Don't forget this little orphaned sunflower back there. And etc. Just keep going around coloring everything in. So that's your basic petal. So what I do next is I take a little bit of perhaps orange. Again, light source up here on the left. Then some of these petals are going to have a little bit more darker yellow in like this side. Okay, and then even over here where that seed head casts some shadow. Okay, and if the orange goes into the seed head a little bit, even better. And then these secondary petals, sometimes, you know, you got to have a little shadow on them. Even these tips, as they curl under away from the sunlight, perhaps a little shadow on them. A little bit of these pleats can be brought out. These little pleated lines that form in sunflowers can be brought out. Same thing, just wander around. Keep it simple with these other ones. Remember, all your focus is here. But do go around and apply these colors. And I also feel like this needs a little bit more color in it, so I'm gonna wander around, give it a little bit of a hit of this orange. And then at a certain time in the maturity of a sunflower head, they get these little ring of, well, they start out green. Let's find our bright green. They start out with these tiny little minuscule bits of green flowers. And you can see this is an example, good example of where the graphite is blended into the green a little bit too much. So we color in these tiny little bits in the center of these little florets. And then as they mature a little bit, they turn into these little yellow, orange florets. And then they eventually become these seeds. So little green center, a little orange ring. See, I grow a lot of sunflowers, so I'm somewhat knowledgeable, if you can call it that, about the way that they look as they grow. So I don't know. That's about where I'm going to end it.